Hello and welcome to part 2 of this 3-part series of Our Earth and Us. Today we will be talking about our one and only home, Earth. In part 1 of this 3-part series we talked about the world's societies and where they at right now basically. And in this part 2 article/video we're going to be talking about our one and only home planet Earth, and that's it. So what's going on with our planet right now realistically? But before I get into any of this, I'd like to say basically, I don't care what your beliefs are when it comes to global warming, global weather changes, or anything else. We're going to be dealing with the facts here, and it is what it is. Right now our planet is going through some very serious changes, and also the facts are, if we stopped everything we are doing that has been causing harm to Mother Earth, the effects of what we have already done would continue on for the next 100 or so years for sure, and scientists have guaranteed this would be the case. Another fact is our planet is an enclosed system, my friends. This means the replenishment of the resources we use every day cannot be replenished in any way, shape, or form unless we leave the planet, go to another planet, and acquire our resources, basically there, then bring them back to Earth to use. And this actually goes for every single thing we have on this planet, including the air we breathe. There is no such thing as an infinite resource when it comes to the Earth, which is an enclosed system. Facts are, the more people we have on the planet, the more resources we are definitely going to use. And right now, with all of the so-called third world countries that are coming into full development, the resources we are going to need over the next 50 years is going to be enormous, to say the least. Right now, it's a well-known fact that our planet's fisheries globally are diminishing at a faster rate than ever thought possible before. Overfishing of our oceans, lakes, and rivers are taking their toll in a big way. Many species of ocean fish and sea life that we depend on for our food are disappearing literally at an alarming rate. Pollution, disease, warming waters, and acidification are just a few of the problems our oceans and other areas of the planet are facing, and these are some very serious problems indeed. They're making a big difference in everything that supports us on this planet right now. And now we have the Fukushima situation, what I said, I said the day that it happened, that it would change the entire oceanic food chain of the Pacific Basin in more ways than one. And as of today, the Japanese government have announced that the Fukushima situation, excuse me in my pronunciation of that, has only gotten worse and is completely out of control now. The actual cores of the reactor's meltdowns have literally dropped into the ocean waters under the plant, and radiation levels have spiked so high that they are 100% lethal to anything entering the contaminated areas, even for just a few moments now. The word here, my friends, is moments. That's the key word. We also have the hundreds of thousands of gallons of radioactive waters that enter the Pacific daily,